What a beautiful sunny morning it is today in Florida. Okay, let's go to our Chitas of the day. We're holding the Chumash in your Parsha Kisava. You were holding in the today's Tuesday, the third reading of this week's Parsha. We are holding on chapter 26, verse number 16. Hayom hazeh. This day, Hashem Alekech Matzav Chalasis, this day God has commanded you to do as Achukim, the statutes. Ha'ela, these statutes. Vasamashpatim, these laws. Ushmarta, you should be careful, you should watch. Vasisa Isam, you should do them. B'chol levavcha, with all your heart. B'chol nafshecha, with all your soul. Now she says, B'chol yoyim, what about yoyim hazeh today? The Abishah gave God gave them the Torah. He gave it to them 40 years ago. Every day, every day it should be like new. As if God commanded you today. Now she says, there's a voice that comes out and says, a heavenly voice blessed him. You brought the first fruits today. You'll merit to repeat this obligation. You'll merit to do this in Mirz Hashem the next year. That's why it's the custom to on Simchas Torah, when you kiss the Torah to the person, you say the Lebin Bayar. We should live to next year to dance again. Simchas Torah. Hashem Ma'atayim. Today you have signaled out God to be Elias Lachalakim, to be to you as a God, Lechat V'Rachad, to go in His ways, Ulishba Chukav, and to do His statutes, mitzvahs of His commandments, Umishpatav, and His laws, and to hear His voice. Now she says there's no decisive evidence for the meaning in this pasuk, but it appears to me that it denotes setting aside and separation. Hemircha and Marta. This is like very interesting. Marta, the word Marta, and the word Hemircha. But it appears to me that setting aside a separation, you have signaled him out for yourself from other deities to you as a God, and He has set you apart from all nations of the world to be His treasured people. I found some evidence that this is the nate's glory. Amarta Emircha's glory, as it says it says in Tillim. I'm sorry, Teferes, it's glory, because Yisoimiru Kapele Avam. It's Yisoimiru, the same word. Emircha and Amarta is in integrous people glorify themselves. Hashem Emir Chayim, and God has set you apart. You have set God apart. God has set you apart. Ayem Lias Lam Segula, to be a treasured people. Kashadir Balach, like He spoke to you. Velishmer Kol Mitzvah, and to safeguard His commandments. Now she says, well, where does it say that? It says that already in Exodus. Vayisa Li Segula, you will be to me as a treasure. Verse 19, and God will make you supreme above all the nations. That she is made. To distinguish L'sila for praise, to a distinguished name, and to glory. Ulias Am Kaddish, you'll be a holy nation. Hashem Alekecha, to God your God, Kashedibar, as He has spoken. Now she says, where does that say that? It's in Leviticus. It's written, Kashadiber ve'isem likadoshim, you shall be holy to me. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya of the day as we continue the 14th letter of the Alter Rebbe, this beautiful letter of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe based his letter on the verse, Tamid Eine Hashem Alekecha, continuously, forever is the eyes of God upon the land of Israel. Bereisha Hashana, from the beginning of the year, Adachas Hashana, to the end of the year. And the Alter Rebbe explained what it means, this concept of Tamid Eine Hashem Alekecha, but since it comes from Chachma, that the year, everything in the world comes from the wisdom of God, which is constant renewal. It's in a constant mode of renewal. So therefore, every year, At the end of the year, the previous energy of the previous year, which again, as Alter Rebbe said, is in a smaller way. It happens every day, but in a yearly way, this happens every year. That at the end of the last day of Elul of this month, the energy of this year returns to a source, and a new light, a new energy comes out to the world that was never ever in the world before. And this is what's written. Tamid Eine Hashem Elokecha Ba, forever. The eyes of God upon him. What do you mean the eyes of God? Sheinayim, the eyes, and Kinuyim is a kinuy, the eye, you mean eyes. The God doesn't have any eyes. The point of eyes is a kinuy, Lamshachas Ur Chachma. Eyes is called the light of Chachma. And the Alter Rebbe says, I'll prove it to you, in the Gemara, the Talmud, the sages are called Einei Ha'eda. They are called the eyes of the congregation because they are the leaders of the congregation. They are the wisdom of the congregation. For they illuminate by the light of Chachma, which is known as Ephipita's eyes. That's why the Torah over here means the eyes of God, the Chachma of the Eibush. Or it says that it's known Va'avira de Eretz Machim. We know the Gemara says that whenever you go to Eretz Yisrael, the ear of Eretz Yisrael, the atmosphere of the Eretz Yisrael makes a person wise. Why? Because in Eretz Yisrael, the attribute of Chachma shines upon the land. The land of Israel is illuminated by Chachma, by wisdom. As it stated above, forever the eyes of the Lord are upon God, upon you, refers to the constant illumination by Chachma. And this radiance, the Chachma, that comes and shines upon Israel. Even though it's continuously, nevertheless, it's not only on one and the same plane and level since the beginning of the world. Even though it's continuous, but it happens every year, a new light. Every single Rosh Hashanah, is new light. Because the light that came down to the world this year, as we come to the end of the last 2 weeks of Elul, the light of this year, Mistalik Ben of Rosh Hashanah, will go up. This light of the energy of this year will go up to heaven, to its source, and go back to its source. And that's why it says the eyes upon God, the wisdom of God of this year ends at the end of the year. It started on Rosh Hashanah. The blowing of the shofar of this year, Rosh Hashanah, came this new light down. And it's going to end. It's not going to end. It's going to return to its source on the last day of Elul this year. So the verse does not say they are there everlasting. That's the question out to them. Why does it say everlasting? Because the F looks in the descent of Rosh Hashanah last year, it will end. That's why it says, that's why the verse specifically says, from the beginning of the year, from Rosh Hashanah last year until Elul this year. Rosh Hashanah this year till Elul this year. Which draws and makes away the descent, a new and more sublime light. Saying the Lachen Ksiv, it's also interesting that it's written Meirashis in the pasuk. It says when it says from the beginning, it is missing a letter. Meirashis Hasan is missing an aleph. In the pasuk, it's written without an aleph. It means the same thing, whether it's written with an aleph or not. But it's missing an aleph in the word Meirashis. And why is it missing an aleph? Meirashis Hasan. Reima was in the beginning of the year, Ma'ariv of the last day of Elul this year. There's going to be a stalkus. There's going to be a concept of a sleeping. It's going to be the world's going to be a little bit in a coma. The world's going to be a little bit in a concept of a fainted concept, not a coma. It's a fainted concept, and therefore it has to wait. There's a couple of hours between Ma'ariv and the blowing of the shofar. Usually Ma'ariv is at 8 o'clock at night, and the blowing of the shofar is going to be next day, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So there's a big gap in between those two times. Shemistalik Belei Rosh Hashanah, which draws on the night of Rosh Hashanah. At that time, the innermost element of the world's vitality is in a state of withdrawal due to the ascent of Malchus. Meaning the innermost core of Malchus is then in a state of elevation. That's what happens also. So it returns to Malchus. But then Malchus itself is elevated on the night of Rosh Hashanah. Everything goes up ad achat tekiyas until after the sounding of the shofar. Sheyer Ur Chodosh Elyon Yosef comes down and sends a new and more sublime light, a greater light. Never was light was never in the world. Not it was some light from the previous year. This new light that comes to the world, that's why it's called Rosh Hashanah. It's a new year. It's a new light. It's a whole new world. Because this light, the energy that's going to come down to the world, Be'ezat Hashem, on Rosh Hashanah this year is going to be a new light that was never in the world before. And this old light then comes down to Malchus of the world of Atzilus. That's where first this Chachma of Atzilus comes down to Malchus of the world of Atzilus. Shalamaylo Shalamata comes down first in Malchus of the world of Atzilus, then it comes down to Eretz Yisrael. Then it comes down to the land of Israel. The light that animates this world first passes through the land of Israel. And from there, it diffused throughout the world at large. In order to animate the world in the duration of the last year. Its manifestation, however, light that comes concealed in Eretz HaChaim above and below. When the light comes into the world, in the Malchus, the upper world, in Atzilus, and then ultimately comes down into this world in Eretz Yisrael, the revelation of this light and the descent of the creative life force to the world and all its created beings. But that all depends. Now it all depends. The Eibishter can bring down the light, but it's not going to be revealed if we're not going to come to Shul on Rosh Hashanah. We're not going to daven the way we should daven, and we're not going to hear the shofar the way we should hear the shofar. We're going to do everything right. That's what the expression is. We mentioned yesterday that we tell the Eibishter we've done everything right. And we created the right vessels. And we created the right Susal Tata, awakening from below. And now Ashkifa Mein Kochcha Shemayim. And now you have to bring it down. You have to make sure to bring down this light because we have done everything right. All depends on the action of below. And all the merits of the Jewish nation. And the tshuva that the Jewish people do. In the 10 days of repentance for Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. And all that depends on the way that this light is going to be diffused throughout the entire world, but in this lower world. And this will be suffice to those that want to understand. So, in summary, the divine light in issuing from the sphere of Malchus, the world of Atzilus that radiates within the land of Israel throughout the year increases yearly both in quantity and in quality. Similarly, the tzedakah given for the Holy Land should be increased every year, both quantitatively and qualitatively, because that's what we're trying to create. So, if we want to create a light to diffuse to us in an unbounding manner, we should do it tzedakah in an unbounding manner. The conclusion of the above letter makes it clear that this mortal initiative makes an impact on the revelation of this light. The ever-increasing revelation of light that descends in a concealed form is dependent on ever-increasing contribution of tzedakah given to the land of Israel every single year. That completes the 14th letter of the Alter Rebbe. What a beautiful letter of the Alter Rebbe. Okay, today is the 16th day of the month. Today is the 16th day of the month, which is chapter 79 to chapter 82. You do those 4 chapters, you do the chitas of the day. The Rebbe writes today, on the 16th day of Elul. The Alter Rebbe interprets the statement. It says, Kol hamakayim nefesh achas miYisrael. Whoever saves a single person of the Jewish nation is as if he's saved the entire world. So why? Because one must perceive a Jew as he stands in the premortal thought of Adam Kadmon. You have to look at a Jew not the way he's in the physical world. You have to look at him the way he is in the spiritual world, which in the spiritual world, in the prophecy of the Ezekiel prophecy, in the prophecy of his chariot, he has a man, Adam Kadmon. He had man sitting upon the throne. So that's called in Kabbalah Adam Kadmon, premortal man. So you have physical, just like you have the world, the world in Atzilus, you have it ultimately in this world, so you have the human being, Adam, in premortal man in the spiritual sense. Each soul stands with all generations destined to descend from it until the coming of Mashiach. Everything comes out of this Adam Kadmon, premortal man. Righteous Redeemer. Coming to righteous Redeemer. When one does a favor to an individual, one helps somebody, it's as a favor to all those souls until all generations. So we should realize that by doing a favor for somebody, we're not helping only that person. Since that person comes from Adam Kadmon, so really you're helping total humanity. You're helping the whole world. Not only all the people that live in this world now, but all people from all generations from the beginning of time. That's what the Alter Rebbe said. A Jew has to look when he does Ahavas Yisrael, how he has to look when he does a little favor for somebody else. He's doing a favor for the entire humanity from the time of creation till the coming of Mashiach. I wish you all a beautiful and wonderful and happy day. May Shem will see you all tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I just wanted to mention that the women's program, the Torah and Tea, has been pushed today at 7:30. I wish you all a wonderful day. What about Shofar?